creativity saved my life, but it can save other people's lives too. And so not just painting, singing, poetry, being creative in the business field. But if we teach people how to think differently and not just one way of thinking, we will all benefit.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Happiness Squad podcast, where we share practical tips to make flourishing your competitive edge and help you achieve stellar performance powered by well-being, not at its expense. I'm Ashish Kothari, and I'm on a mission to help 1 billion people not just experience happiness as an emotion, but use it as a tool to unlock their fullest potential. If you're interested in learning more, please make sure to follow me on LinkedIn and subscribe to our newsletter at happiness-squad.com. Today, I'm thrilled to bring you a conversation with my dear friend, Will Day, a Boulder-based abstract artist whose story is a testament to resilience, creativity, and living with purpose. From Peace Corps to Wall Street to the vibrant world of contemporary art, Will's journey is nothing short of extraordinary. Inspired by his early love of painting, transformative global experiences, and few life-changing twists and turns, Will found clarity in chaos by embracing vulnerability and creativity. Will's bold-layered paintings are a testament to the beauty and complexity of the human experience. In this episode, Will shares lessons on finding joy in the present by letting go of expectations, cultivating deep connections rooted in trust and empathy, and how failure is a teacher that pushes us beyond the fear of the mistakes. Through his vibrant paintings, Will shows us how art and life can be an opportunity to flourish even in the darkest moments. Get ready to be inspired by Will's incredible journey and his passion for making the world a more hopeful, connected, loving, and colorful place. Let's dive in. Hey, Will, it is so lovely to finally, this new year, record a podcast with you, my dear friend. Thank you for being on. Look, friends, for those who are listening, I had an accidental run-in into Will, actually, believe it or not. I was going to this place where Will has his gallery, and the event wasn't there. But Will was, and I had a chance, and literally the moment I stepped into his studio, which is also his gallery, I was just blown away. I was blown away what I was seeing, because what I was seeing was not just this, art of flowers or whatever, but there was so much movement, there was so much color. What I was witnessing in front of me was life. And I asked him, and I started talking to him a little bit about the large canvases that he does, and this just complete, he calls himself, I think you call yourself the paint thrower.
Yes.
The paint thrower. But it was amazing. And I was like, hey, what's going on? And then he told this amazing story, which I'm hoping he's going to share. I'm not going to talk about it right now. And it's an amazing story, and you're going to be inspired, and you're going to learn a lot from it. On this episode and on this podcast, we are all about helping people become resilient and flourish in life. And I think Will, as you will walk away at the end, truly embodies. He's the embodiment of resilience. He's an embodiment of just a lot of amazing things. But Will, and of course, he's an artist. If you haven't alluded to, he's an unbelievable painter, a creator. Will, I want to start with first just welcoming you. It is so great to have you.
Thanks for having me here. This has been something I'm looking forward to.
And I want to get into, talk to me a little bit about, when did you first discover your passion for art?
I've been thinking about that question, and Ashish, it's I think art has always been part of my soul, always part of my spirit. So from day one, as I came to this earth, I emerged as this creative spirit, but I didn't know. I think the question is, when did you discover, when did my spirit wake up to becoming this true, full artist? And there's a lot of different stages that developed. But I wanted to always be creative, and I've always wanted to share my creative juices with the world. I didn't know how
Mm-hmm.
to do that. So, I wanted to be able to walk through life, be a purpose-driven individual that was creative and inspired people through my my actions. And I thought I was going to be an athlete. I
When
thought
you
that
were
was
when you were younger.
yeah. But I was always very creative. I remember since day one, I knew I had this incredible hunger for painting and abstract expressionism, but I didn't know that. But I was fostered in a wonderful family that kind of helped spark that curiosity for painting at a very early age. And growing up, I was born in New York City. So
Okay.
I grew up in Connecticut, and I was influenced by a lot of incredible art through the museums. And, I say this very kindly. And every one of my birthdays, when I was kind of waking up to the call to be an artist in middle school and in high school, my parents would take me to the museums because that's what I wanted. I wanted a creative experience on my
Mm-hmm.
birthday to really enliven my spirit. So going to the Guggenheim, the Museum of Modern Art, and then going to Broadway plays was just a dream come true. But I didn't know what it meant. I just felt comfortable.
You
And
felt
so
alive. You felt happy. It filled you with joy.
it wasn't about money. It wasn't about trophies. It wasn't about winning. It was just about being in the moment and embracing this creative spirit that's so organic and authentic. I'm like, I wanted to just chew on it and bite it and grab it and take advantage of it and be part of it.
Amazing. So that's, you grew up with art. You grew up in an environment that, cultivated it, that inculcated it. And then obviously, you graduate college. Did you study art in college? What did you study in college?
I think the story should go back a little earlier. So, I really woke up to the senses of art in high school. So
Okay.
one of the questions is like, what really inspired you? What sparked the curiosity? I remember being in middle school and my first art teacher told me to do this in watercolor in seventh grade. And I was like, all right, cool. That was kind of the first time that I got into the flow state. And you're like, you've talked about that. But I was like, the world stopped.
Hmm.
And at 13 years of age in 2000 and, 2000, whatever. At 13 years of age, I was like, wow, something clicked. And I created this amazing watercolor that I still have to this day that's in my studio. Fast forward high school, I go away to boarding school, and then I really connect with the art team there, with specifically an art professor named Bob Johnson. And I remember specifically the first day I show up, I'm like, hey, I'm interested in art. I'm pretty good. He goes, all right, cool. Let's sit down at the desk and I'm going to ask you a question. What does your heart want you to create? I was like, what do you mean? Am I going to do stick figure? I thought we were going to do landscapes and all this. He's like, no, I want you to start thinking, I got to get to know you. And he did this for all the other artists. And so from that point on, I was like, whoa, I felt free to really express my inner spirit of being creative. And that sparked the curiosity and change to say, I can do this. I can be a painter. I really have a lot to say, and I'm not going to be afraid, and I'm going to challenge myself. So high school was the awakening. And then I traveled quite a bit overseas, and I really embraced this European culture of art and the impressionist. And that really was something that kind of I couldn't get enough. I did a term abroad in high school in Paris. So obviously I was around all these amazing artists. Again, I didn't know this was going to be my path, but I knew I just felt right.
Yeah, I think, and it's an important one, right? For those who are listening, there's so much talk about finding your purpose and meaning and all of these things. Many times we are walking through life, but we don't stop and tune into these things. What fill you up? What get you in flow? What brings you joy? And I think what you're highlighting through the story are often these grains, these nuggets that are all around. If we stop and if we just look for them, I think we find them.
And you nailed it. But remember, when we're younger, we're not tuned in like that.
We're not. We're all focused on outside, external successes and conquers we can do, right?
girlfriends, travel, good grades, teachers. So listen, I wasn't that wise. I'm sitting here now. I just turned 54. And I was like, okay, I can reflect a little. I'm on the back nine of my life right now,
Yep.
And so all I always say to everybody, every experience, good or bad, has a meaning and a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's easy for me to say that right now because I've kind of looked back and I've changed and I've pivoted many times. But you better be aware that, God put you here on this earth to do something. It's up to you to find your calling, but he gives you all these little pointers and all these little experiences to wake you up. You
Yep.
have to really put yourself in a place that you can say, I believe, I trust, and I know I'm here for something. And once you start compiling those interests, you'll start figuring out, oh, this is actually what my purpose really is. This is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
driven to do. And then it becomes fun. And then everybody around you benefits.
Yes. Once you discover your gifts, they're often in the service of others, right?
Correct.
So, Bill, everybody, to our listeners, we've talked about this a lot. We always talk about the hero's journey.
Yes.
This notion of one day you wake up, you hear a call. Not many take the journey, but those who do, you cross the threshold.
Yes.
And then you go through this path, right? Where you slay dragons. It's not easy. Many don't make it. But those who do, they come back discovering their gifts and have grown from it. A hero. A common person becomes a hero. Siddhartha becomes the Buddha.
Yes.
Right? Like, really, I mean, it's these journeys that we all take that truly transform us into who we become. I want you to take us through that journey that took you from, so you have it in you, but you
Yes.
followed, as I know, a very traditional path, and then something happened.
Yes.
And I want you to share that story that you shared with me that really was that wake up call for you to say, wait, I'm not just meant to be another person just grinding it out.
I think the journey in the story really is, it starts kind of when we open our own eyes, and I'm a seeker, right? So my journey started at a young age, and you highlight this, and I say this very kindly. My parents were divorced in the 70s. That was really tough. I loved them. It all worked out great. So that put me in a place of being by myself and being alone. And again, I don't judge them. I love my parents. It all worked out good. But as a son, I was left to figure out, what the heck does this
Yeah.
mean?
You
And
grew
so
up much
that
earlier than you wanted.
and I wanted, right? And I felt alone. And it's just the way the process, even though my parents are amazing and I love my mom and dad and my step parents were great. But internally, like, this is not anything out of the ordinary. But I started to thinking about why I was here. What am I supposed to do? Who's going to take care of me? What do I want to do? What's my purpose? How do I belong to the world? Who loves me? These are all these questions that I kind of started at an early age. And so I started to really figure out, I want to go see the world. And so at a very, very young age, I'm like, I'm out. Since, my family's been broken,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's time for me to explore. And they, in a way I didn't know, that kind of worked in my benefit because I had that drive, that passion. I had the empathy. I wanted to go see the world. So I left my comforts of my home, as you talked about the hero's journey. And I heard the call, and the call was like, you need to go out. And to me, that was going to the world and seeing the world. So I went to Europe, studied in high school in Europe, and started to really find my voice as a human being, as Will Day. And that was kind of the call for me to, like, wow, there's more to the world than just me growing up in, the suburbs of New York City, which is amazing. But I figured out very early that I had this drive and passion to find my calling in life. I didn't know what it was. Percy Elton
Mm-hmm.
just got elected. I mean, that was radical for a young high school kid to be like, hey, let's learn about politics and let's go to this different part of the world and let's understand. I wanted to engage in this incredible appetite for life. My parents gave me that opportunity mentally to allow myself to seek freedom and explore what it's like to kind of be in the world. and contribute. And I didn't know what my calling was still. But, the hero's journey is like you go out, you seek the adventure, you get the call, then there's a threshold. There is this time that you have to take action. Are you going to go over that line? And if you see in my studio right here in the back of my painting, in one of the walls, it's called Threshold. And that was a reflection of the of the painting series that I did in the latest exhibit called Relentless. And that piece to me was kind of like the breakthrough piece in that collection to say, hey, we can get to a certain point, we can hear the calling and do it, but then how do you get over across the threshold to slay your dragons and keep moving forward and not being distracted through fear? And so once I learned that, I'm going to put myself in vulnerable situations, I'm going to start crossing the threshold to really embrace life's challenges and say, I'm in. I am in. So it was high school and then college hit, and that was amazing. I did study some art, but I also studied finance and politics because it taught me how to appreciate the world. And it was in my French class that my French teacher said, maybe you should go into the Peace Corps. And I said, oh, that's interesting. So I wanted to be a diplomat. I wanted to connect to the world. So that majoring in French and then having a cool French professor kind of sparked my curiosity. And that gave me the hunger to kind of go and apply for the U.S. Peace Corps and then get accepted and be assigned to Tunisia, North Africa. So the journey was, I was unfolding it. I was definitely crossing the threshold. I was ready to adventure. I didn't know what it meant, but I always had this passion to follow the hero's journey because we all are heroes in our own story. Some are bigger than that, and some are different. They're all different, but you have to find your own hero's journey.
Right.
That's what's so important. We can't compare. The comparing and the language, it's like, stop. The human spirit allows all of us to be a hero in our own story. That's what the beautiful thing is being a human being.
Yeah. Ed, so you go do Peace Corps, and then what happens?
So I go in the Peace Corps, get accepted, and I get assigned to North Africa, the Sahara Desert in Tunisia. And I was like, whoa, it's a little different.
Very far away from France, the civilized world of France, and the art-rich world of New York.
Yes, I was like, whoa, this is interesting. And I think that there are many messages there. But I think for me, what happened was I got the creative bug. I didn't have many things. Didn't have money, lived in a very small, I lived in a village called Spicha, which was in the middle of the Sahara Desert. I was the only American there. And it was a reality check. It's like, well, doesn't matter what I look like and where I came from, but can I still connect to people? And can I understand? Can I speak their language? And can we get along? And that was one of the greatest tests I've ever had. And it came out in the most beautiful way. And I love the culture, love the people. And it also gave me an opportunity to dive deep into my spirit and say, what am I all about? Don't worry about where I came from and what I look like and what, where I'm from. But it's like, hey, what is my spirit? What is, God told me, what am I doing? What's my journey? And then I realized like, I'm actually really creative. I started painting and photographing every single day and writing. And I was like, I never knew I had that. But until you put yourself in a place of vulnerability and a place that you have to be very relentless and you have to be open to the world and be very empathetic, you never know what your God-given talents are going to be.
Absolutely.
So that was extreme. I get it. But I wanted that. And it came to me and it sort of opened up this whole new channel of opportunity to continue on the hero's journey.
And what happens after the Peace Corps? So you're in Tunisia, you've learned and found another part of you, right? This notion of connection and community, language barriers, just, this notion of even so many people will, I found that so inspirational. So many of us never leave the comfort of our home and what we know, right? And at a young age, going and actually exploring and really putting yourself into the unknown for you, right? It might be a known world for there, but it's unknown for you. It shapes us. It teaches us about something. So you went there, right? Then you came back, and then what did you do next?
So I love that question because I was like, wow, I'm so fulfilled. I feel so great. I grew my hair out, didn't cut it for 2 years. Bolton. I was like, look at this guy. I'm like, I am I'm zen. I'm joking, but you feel a great moment of connection to the world where it wasn't all based on what I did for the company, how much money I made, what sales did I do. It was really about living with a culture that's very historic, that's very heartfelt, and connecting to them through their ways of being and not being so judgmental. So what did I
And
do?
slowing down, right?
And
And slowing down.
slowing
It's such a
down.
slower world.
I mean, slowing down. I forgot about that. I was like, okay, where are all the activities? Where's the TV? Where are the phones? Zero. So we had to learn how to reach out to people and break bread together over dinner and lunch and breakfast and just look at them in the eyes and have a conversation and be present. And that was like, that was in the cool period of the world where technology was obviously existing, but we didn't really have computers. There was no
Yeah.
phones. It We still got to connect heart to heart. So after the Peace Corps, huge success. I really wanted to kind of go into the world of diplomacy and be a U.S. diplomat. But I came home and I remember I was like, you know what? I'm a type of guy that likes extremes. I did a lot and enjoyed it, but I really wanted to start connecting to my own culture, the United States. And I wanted to get back and actually wanted to make money. And I was curious about Wall Street. And so I applied to a few jobs. I got interviews and then got hired at a company called Bloomberg Financial Markets. But before that, I'll never forget. I was home within a couple weeks. My family's like, all right, you've been here a couple weeks. You're kind of cool now. Maybe you should cut your hair, go start looking at jobs. I'm like, so I, obviously applied and I got a call back for a few companies. They're like, you got to come in. This was like on a Friday. I got the acceptance of, hey, we want to interview you. Tuesday at 11 a.m. I remember this. Come in. We'll meet you at our, 59th and ninth office and we'll have a chat. Meanwhile, I didn't have a suit. I still looked like Michael Bolton, long hair hippie, and I had to rush to get all this stuff done. So I obviously changed, adapted to my new environment, walked in there, and the rest was history. I got a job and I learned a lot about the capital markets and I learned a lot about finance and teamwork and competition and sales, and it was amazing. So the message is when something, the call comes as the journey, whatever it is, it may not be what you expect, but you have to be like, all right, I'm open for it. Let's see where this is going to go. And so I took another call. And the call was to be working in the world of finance and sales and competition and go full tilt. And that's what I did.
Yeah. And, I think your life, there's so many lessons, and that's why I found this so inspiring, my friend. This is a very different podcast than our usual podcasts because, these are little grains, right, in your life that, have been there. And I think it's such a beautiful story. Like, starting with earlier, what fills you up? What fills your cup? What brings you joy? Your early part in this, this seed of painting and artists and creativity to your path of self-discovery and going into the unknown and listening to the call and, really growing through that experience, experiencing a very slower world, connecting, and now back, sometimes we feel these journeys are linear. Either it's this or that, but you've kind of swam in all these different worlds, right? And so now you find yourself in the traditional world. And so I have a question for you. Even in your hustle, bustle, busy New York consumer, finance, cutthroat world, how were your experiences till that point helping you showing up, kind of at the back of your head? What was happening? Like, I can imagine, like, how was your experience of that world different versus somebody else who used the traditional, grew up, went to a top school, straight away got into a job and has just been on a straight, the linear path.
Yeah. And I think that's a good question. And I use that to my advantage, because one of the things I've always told the world, and then I did a TED talk about it. Remember, there's no straight line in life.
Yes.
Okay. So with that, and part of the TED talk was, if I'm going in this very competitive environment in finance, I sort of used to the unexpected. There's some lot of differences, language, people, culture, and more importantly, expectations. So I use this concept of, once you let go of your expectations of what you think, hey, I'm going to go get a job here. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to work at this place. And then, you know, I said, okay, my path's a little different, but I still have the same drive with a great outcome. So I'm going to use this kind of flexibility, lower my expectations of what I thought this was the good way for success is. And it opened me up to different opportunities and ideas because I wasn't one minded. I wasn't a one dimensional pony. And I think that was refreshing to some of my clients and the people I worked with. And I think it gave a different perspective of how to really connect with people. And so I always reminded myself, like, hey, I was just in the Sahara Desert. You know, I made stuff work out of nothing. And I was like, I can do that on Wall Street. I can do that with my family. I can do it with my friends. And I can have fun with it. I can have
Yeah.
fun with it. So that's how I approached it.
Enjoying this podcast? If so, you will be excited to know that Happiness Squad is launching a free online community on the International Day of Happiness, March 22nd. This is an opportunity for listeners like you to integrate the learnings we discuss on this podcast, as well as the 9 Hardwired for Happiness practices, into your daily life to rediscover your well-being, balance, purpose, and connection. Every month, we will connect together as a community, and it's a great opportunity for you to meet other like-minded individuals on their own journey from fear to freedom, learn and clarify questions you might have from our flourishing experts, and pick up 1 to 2 micro practices to lean into that month. Check out the details on our website or drop us an email to learn more. I love that, right? Versus many people who can find themselves, because they have never really discovered that foundation in who they are and had those experiences, they're always comparing themselves to the other to say, am I doing good enough?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, you've got, I am good enough. I've survived in things that many other people won't,
Yeah.
right? I am confident. The other thing you talked about, which is so cool, is when we are, expectations come in when you expect, when you're used to the environment is clear. I've been here before. Now I expect after a left, there's going to be a right because this road and that road. And, I was reflecting on what story you were sharing, right? I've been talk about truly, again, learning how to drop expectations and surrender to what is rather than what
Yes.
you want to be. Because, how else would you have survived in Tunisia? You didn't know what to expect.
Oh,
Every moment, everything is new.
and I couldn't really explain that to people. Like, how's it going? I'd be like, well, it's terrible. The food sucks. I mean, my shelter's horrible. I don't shower. Like my friends have my language. I could go that approach. Just label, label, label. And I'm like, I chose to put myself here. So I'm going to find joy in the middle of the Sahara Desert and have fun and
Yes.
build friendships for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And that's what a lot of volunteers do there. So,
And when you've lived there, everything else seems in many ways, right, become like first world problems, right? Because you've seen the world and you've been in the world and walked in that world.
and I think that helped go back to your initial question. It's helped me when I was struggling in the world of finance and sales. I was like, I've been in the world. I may not be the best with technology or the advances, all the stuff, but I kind of understand how things really still come together.
Yeah.
In a very soulful way. And I said, okay, I got to remember that because it still comes down to a couple things in life. It's trust. Do people trust me? Do they believe me? Am I being honest? And do I care about the human being in front of me? And
Yeah.
those qualities will stand the test of time.
Yeah. Beautiful, right? And all along, that ember of art, the fire is burning in you within, but you're doing other things out there. And then 9/11 happens.
Right.
And that was quite transformative for you and your family. So I want
Correct.
to tell our listeners a little bit of that story. And that's really, what plunged you into this world now.
So, the go back to the lineage, I was in the Peace Corps, right? And then I come back and I start working in finance for Bloomberg Financial Markets. And then right after that little stage, I'm in New York City. I decided to tell my wife, hey, you know what? This is the month before 9/11, August. I'm like, I am going to get my master's in architecture at Pratt. She's like, what? Why don't you get your MBA at Columbia? I'm like, you know what?
Totally. You're in finance. Go do
You're,
that.
you're so good. Go to Columbia, maybe NYU. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to go get my master's at Pratt Institute. So I bring this up because there was a shift already that I made, right? My
You
wife
were
was,
shifting.
I was already shifting, not knowing the world was changing, another pivot, right? And then, we were getting married 2 months later in October in New York City at the Boathouse in Central Park. So not knowing all this stuff was going to happen, remember, everything was already planned. Then I go to school. My wife is working at a company called Baseline. It's an equity research product, which then Thomson Reuters bought. She's working on the 78th floor of Tower 2. And we wake up that morning of 9/11, and I didn't have class. And she came in late from a business meeting and slept in. And, we were getting married 2 months afterwards. And before she goes in the office, she's like, hey, we got to talk about some wedding plans. And I said, oh, yeah, great. I'm doing nothing. How can I help? I'm just being a regular guy here. What can I do to help? So I'm joking, but again, the story, she was doing a lot, planning the wedding, getting everything organized. And then she's like, I'll stay in that morning. So we were at our apartment, and then the planes went in, and we were living we were downtown. So we saw the first plane fly over the city and go into Tower 1. And then we saw the second plane circle around and go right through her conference room. So our building was facing south of the towers. So to answer your question, it was dramatic. It was horrific. It was sad. It was confusing. It was depressing. It was a war. And so that changed and shifted everything, obviously, for many of us. And so a lot of our friends died and passed, and my wife was saved. And so I used that as I got to remind myself, like, she could have been dead. And I don't bring this story up a lot, but the transformation of saying, we're supposed to be here. My wife and I are supposed to be here. If we weren't, we would have been working. She would have been in the tower, and I would have a very different life. So
yeah, and what a stark reminder, it stuck with me because, it's again, you are literally your life and your journey, both through your actions and others kind of, forced on you that you didn't have a choice in. Talk about surrender. You didn't choose it. Nobody will choose that. But I've been talk about living a reminder that life is short and you can't take any day for given and any day for granted. And also, if there is ever a call to say, I love what you just said. I'm here. I wasn't there. I need to live into what I am here to do.
correct. And I
Right?
think we have to use that as a message. And it was a horrible metaphor to be involved in. I didn't choose that. So we looked at each other and said, all right. I said, hey, I'm lucky. You're alive. You had a meeting on the 110th floor at Cantor Fitzgerald, but you canceled it. You could have been up there, or you could have been in your conference room. Like, there are some lot of strange things that, God was saying, you're not ready to go. And it's unfortunate. I'm really sad, but, it brings a lot of tears, and we don't talk about this, and we never, only like my closest friends know, but it's a turning point, and everybody has these choices. And then, as we say, these are the aha moments. What are you going to do at this time? Are you going to be angry and pissed off? And is it going to be all about fighting the people that, hurt you? Or are you going to move forward and say, I forgive. It is very hard for me to forgive for what that moment did and all the people I lost. I'm sad and pissed, but I'm going to do something better to honor those people that died. And right now, in this moment, I'm choosing creativity. So creativity changed my life and saved my life. So that is the message and my mantra that I'm using to say, I remember, I'm never going to forget, but I'm going to take a different path to use creativity to move forward, bring healing and help and new ideas to the universe.
Bill, I'm going to say this, right? That incident, obviously, for everyone who was involved, you in particular, like so closely, touched, right? But here's the thing. You use that and it's front with you and you've got the pain and I can see it, but you chose a different route. But here's the thing. That was just not a your moment. It was kind of a whole US moment and a whole
Yeah,
world moment. But,
correct.
but these things are happening every day, Will, in some part of the world, in the news. Like, think about what the world is going through right now and what's happening in LA, right? And the level of destruction, or what happened before that in Hawaii, or what happened before that in Australia, or the attack on Israel and how many people got killed, or the war in Ukraine. I mean, I can keep going. If you step back, we can think about that as one event, but my point is every day there are things that are happening, and yet the majority of humanity, there's so many people who live as if they're going to live forever. They postpone what they are meant to do. They postpone even joy. Today I work hard because in 10 years then I'm going to do this. Like, how do you know you're going to be alive 10 minutes from now?
Right.
Right? Like, all that you hold dear might go away. And I think for me, I think there are these crucible moments that life sometimes puts them in it, but they are happening. And I think, again, it goes back to if you choose to tune into those, I think they can all be constant reminders of both how ephemeral and how, like fragile life is. And
Yes.
at the same time, how valuable human life is. And hence the burden or the obligation we have to live in service and be at our best expression of what we are born here to do. Because we all are.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to have gone through and just narrowly escaped 9/11 to say, hey, I have a gift. We all have gifts, right? And I think if we really tune into that, I think the world would be so much better for it.
And I think you nailed it. It's like, remember, my experience is I'm just a human being here asking the universe to say, I want to receive all of the experiences that the earth and God has created us to be and do it in a very wholeheartedly way that's really going to be an example for others. So by asking, and saying, I want to serve this world and not be so selfish, we're going to be able to experience the good and bad. And you have to experience that because then you won't see what joy feels like and you don't understand what sadness feels like. But that's part of who we are as human beings. So, and I agree with you. It's like we never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I think by looking and reflecting of all these, horrible situations, you and I can go down the rabbit hole. I'm like, oh my God, the world is coming to an end. It's over. But you and I are still here. So what
Yeah.
do we do to kind of be examples of positivity, examples of healing, examples of trying to help people get happy, find their joy and give them a chance to say, we're all in this together. I'm not better than you. But what I am right now is I'm tuning into the experiences and trying to be more present based on the circumstances that God gave me and put me to be in right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take advantage of that.
I love that. My friend, I want to fast forward to today. You've been a professional artist now for almost over a decade, and not just a professional artist. I mean, oh my God, like talk about, you are one of the kind of moving forces, of our generation. You've created hundreds of paintings. Your paintings have such amazing vibrancy. You have these bold names, wonder, dream big, resilience, threshold. I mean, every one of them captures an emotion, a way of being, an inspiration. Talk to me a little bit about where do you see yourself going in this creative journey? What's fueling this work for you right now?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that with us.
I still, what's the journey is really kind of, it's always evolving, right?
Of course,
So
one step, one brushstroke.
I have this, I've been painting for almost full time, 17 and a half years.
Wow.
And so that's been incredible. And it's totally morphed from day one to right now. So where I'm going is I'm continuing to seek new opportunities with my art, with different galleries, with different expositions, for different places I want to travel to. I don't just paint in my studio. So, I'm building a studio practice that can connect with a lot of different people in the world. So that's everything from use my art and content for could be different emotional campaigns or campaigns for healing. It could be my art used for clothing and inspiration, or I'm trying to find ways to connect to certain parts of the world, like certain countries. Say, hey, Will, I want your theme and your ideas to talk about this new Hope series. Let's launch a massive campaign that really brings people in and fuels opportunities to people to talk about hope in our country. I know you can do that. And art could be the trigger to kind of bring these different opposing sides together to really show what humanity can do. We've seen that with music.
Yes.
But art is still very individualistic. You've got a lot of egos in the art world. And that, I just see there's plenty of room to show about healing and bring more of this continuity of groupthink, innovation, creativity, and break down the barriers of all this negativity that's going between all these different sides of political leaders, countries, and ideologies. It's got to stop. And I feel like the art is not just myself, but all of artists have a chance to really open up people's hearts to really think differently. And it doesn't have to be so political. It doesn't have to be so shock and awe. So where I see I'm building a practice, I want to be able to travel. I want to go to different places in the world to share my joy. I want us maybe set up opportunities for kids who never knew how to be creative. Because remember, my mantra is creativity saved my life, but it can save other people's lives too. And so not just painting, singing, poetry, being creative in the business field. But if we teach people how to think differently and not just one way of thought, of thinking, we will all benefit. I know I can see people when they're in my studio, like, I don't know how to paint. I don't know how to draw a human being. I'm like, it's not about that. It's about unleashing your own creative juices to trust yourself and
Yeah.
believe in yourself. And so, the practice of Will Day Art is really trying to go global and allow people to connect with me and my message in many different ways.
What I love about that, there were two or three things that I really love. And I think it's, first of all, I love that you call it the practice. People that think about art as a painting or an object or something out there, right? But there is so much beauty in its practice. In the work we do in Rewire and the programs I run, I often say there is nothing new in anything we talk about. Like what I do, what I teach, what I am sharing, frankly, with people is things that have been our wisdom traditions for thousands of years, right? I said this on an earlier podcast we recorded. There used to be a world where knowledge was power. Today, knowledge is not power. Knowledge is just noise. Knowledge is just noise. What's power is practice. And so even those, first of all, and for all of those people out there, and I'm one of those, I fall into that a lot, who told for the longest time, I am not creative, I am not an artist. I want you to just listen to this, because this is a myth that we have to break, right? If you are alive and you have a soul, you're an artist. Because guess what? Through every word you speak and I speak, we create new worlds. Our words create and generate, like depending on how we show up and whether I shout on you or I give you a hug, right? Or I kind of give you a finger. I create different realities. Every minute of the day we show up, we are creating different realities. And isn't a creator one who creates something? And you're creating realities every day through how you show up, how you walk, how you interact. So you are creating.
Correct.
You might be unconsciously creating it, but you are creating it nonetheless. So you are creative. And the spirit is in us, right? Every culture has dance and song, and they move us. Landscapes capture us, beautiful sunrises and sunsets. So it's in you. The question is, are you willing to practice?
Mm.
And it's all going to start out looking really nothing like anything at all, but that's okay. It's not meant to, because again, this judgment, a figure, unless it looks like this, is a horrible painting. This is not good. Who says that? Right?
Mhm.
Who says that? So I love that. And I loved it. Creativity saved my life. I think if we learn and more people start to use and tune into that and give themselves that grace to try and practice, I think creativity will save the world.
I mean, that's what I would love to, you know, talk about because there's many levels to do that. And I think it really puts people in a place of 100% vulnerability. And we are so afraid to show our
Yes.
true colors. And I'm like, get over yourself. We have such a short period of time in this world. Why put walls up? I mean, imagine if we all were having the chance to say, just be yourself. Show me your voice. And more importantly, don't just brag about your voice, but let's connect with people to say, I appreciate the human journey, human spirit. I may not agree with you, but you know what? I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to try my best to find ways that we can connect and not please you, but just, help each other, maybe be a little more cognizant of this incredible moment that we all get to share to be on this earth for 70, 80, 90, 100 years. It is the most magnificent thing I could ever imagine.
Yeah. No, I love that, Bill. And how, I love the fact that, again, in this spirit, like how interdisciplinary, how global, like I think this is not, just belongs to one or the other. I mean, it truly is something that can connect. And, frankly, the biggest thing, look, even if it doesn't connect you to anybody out there, if the practice or the practice of picking up a brush or picking up a pen or just moving your body connects you to you, the real you, I think that's great.
Listen, you asked this question earlier. I show up every day. I don't know what I'm going to create. I ask the universe to say, I'm a conduit. We're all conduits for our own message to share with the world. Right now, I'm a conduit for creating paintings and art, but there's a lot more towards this practice. So I'm going to continue to advance. But I come in here every day, 100% vulnerable, scared. I look at a blank canvas. What's going to happen today? You know, most artists would say the same thing. Trust me, the most famous artists in the world, they get famous big. And then I'm like, oh my God, now what do I create? Do I do the same thing? No. What the true artist does, they recognize that they struck a chord with these kind of series and body work, but they keep evolving.
Yeah.
That's what we all have to do in any of one of our practices.
Yeah. We listen.
We have to listen, and it's never going to be the same. And people are like, I loved your blue period, Picasso. I loved your abstract expression, your geometry. I love all that. Well, you don't think he was struggling to figure out the next new big thing? He pushed himself, you know?
Yeah.
I know we haven't talked a lot about those themes, but really being relentless in kind of your passion and drive for whatever you choose. I chose painting right now, but it's constantly changing. And I have to tell myself it's okay to fail. It's okay to have a terrible painting. It's okay to fail, 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 and then start over. And the painting is a metaphor because I can paint over those emotions and then see beauty again where I was really in a dark place.
Yeah. I love that. Talk a little bit about that, Bill. Talk about relentless.
Now, relentless, a lot of people have different meanings to that, but my last show I created here in Boulder was the Relentless series based on the hero's journey. We talked a little about that, but for me, I'm not so academic. It's about doing. And so when someone says, oh, that's terrible, it's bad, so people like freeze up. Oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to stop. No, I'm being relentless. Say, all right, let me learn about that. Why is it so bad? Let me dig into that. Why was my work terrible? Why didn't no one connect to it? Because maybe I didn't connect to it. Maybe I didn't give my true heart and get to demonstrate what it feels like to really share what I want to tell the world. So then I had to be self-reflective and constantly be relentless about myself and say, hey, you have to look at your own self and figure out, what are you really trying to say? And is it more ego? Is it more driven by sales? Is it something else? But when I'm relentless and very calm, I get into this beautiful flow state of just naturally downloading this creativity and expressing it onto a canvas.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen a lot, but
You
that's
know, we can make every act we do, everything we do in the world, the work we do, whether we paint, whether we write, whether we just write code, whatever, right? Trade, it doesn't matter what you do. I love that every action we do can be an opportunity to discover something about us and can be a step on the path, right? Relentlessness is a choice. Again, it's a practice, it's an action. It's not about being perfect all the time,
no,
but it's about listening and choosing to take one step over the other. I fall down, I'm going to stand up.
yes.
That's what I'm taking away.
And that's what I want to continue to share. My studio, I come in and there's a lot of things that are not working, but I try to put myself in place to say, all right, I'm going to I'm not going to try. I am doing this. I am going to change. I'm going to make a conscious effort to evolve and shift or pivot, whatever you want, because that's what keeps us young. I mean, I hope I have this incredible joy for life for the rest of my eternity here. But to do that, I have to, make sure my mindset says, "Hey, you have to challenge, you have to be challenged, you have to put yourself through different situations, dark and light, and knowing that you can never give up."
Yeah. So on that, I want to actually go to the next question,
Yep.
right? As over the next couple of questions, we kind of bring this to a close. You said, like, to create out there, I keep doing my work in here. So my question, Will, for you is, what are some daily rituals that keep you grounded and keep your inner flame burning? Like, how do you fill your cup? How do you continuously fuel that fire?
I think it changes a lot, right? So, but I show up every day. Number one, I'm
I show
present.
up every day.
Show up every day. I'm present in my studio or wherever I'm having an event. I have to mindfully say, take all the noise away. Either I'm going to pray or meditate or just calm down and just be one with my space wherever I am. Super important. I'm a very hyper ADHD guy, super impulsive. Okay. So you take that language and say, all right, now I'm going to reverse that and then I'm going to be calm. So every day I try to find moments of stillness in my vessel, of what I call it, or my studio. So
Love
then,
that.
okay, number two, exercise. I get very amped up and I get frustrated in here a lot. But this place is a space that should be full of joy, happiness. But to get that joy, I need to leave. So I have to work out. I have to hike. I have to, go skiing or whatever the sport it is. I got to physically, sweat. And then the other times I have to tell myself that it's okay not to always be creative. And so I have to spend time with family. I have to connect to the core people that mean the most to me. And if I don't, this practices won't grow.
Yeah.
Those are the three things.
I love those. And they're so powerful, right? You talk about, when we talk about well-being in Rewire, we talk about physical, you talk about movement and moving your body. We talk about body, mind, and in mind, you talk about the practice of being mindful, being really present. And it's so hard, right? There's so many people who are walking through life absent. They are
Yeah.
at every moment all over the place. Like all through the day, they're all over the place. But the reality is they're at none of the places. When I'm here, I'm thinking about there. When I'm there, I'm thinking back about here or the next place I'm going to go. I'm actually never there. And it really is a practice again, to your point. Like even with you say, look, I have ADHD. I'm hyper impulsive. Unless I practice being here, I know I'm not going to be here.
Yeah.
And if I'm not here, then nothing is going to happen. So I love that, invitation and that reflection to say, I have to be present. I have to be mindful. And the third we talk about is spirit. And spirit is what fills you up. And you said, my family fills me up. So doing and not losing ourselves in work and meaning, but making sure we are also doing things that matter to us, that we keep front and center. I love those, Will. And I can see if you have a consistent, again, practice of those, how they are kind of coming through you, my friend. You said you're a conduit, but
Yeah.
you are doing the work to keep the conduit pure.
And that will, thank you. I appreciate it. But you remember, it's the trifecta. And we all should think in threes, right? And, it's a very triangle historical way to practice. And it's pretty basic. But you asked me, I need to get basic. I have to remember the fundamentals of why I am painting, why I'm here, and what's next. I mean, we're reaching a certain point in the world where it's going to get a little more confusing. It seems a lot more chaotic. How do we help each other get more balanced, get more empathetic, get more creative, and inspire one another in times of darkness? And if we have a good practice and we have faith, I believe wholeheartedly the right people will lead and guide and really help heal our universe.
Well, my friend, I'm honored to know you. I so appreciate you taking some time to spend your life's wisdom. You, as I said, are an embodiment of resilience and bouncing forward. And truly, I think it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I look forward to our growing friendship and experiencing and seeing more of your amazing work here in Boulder. Thank you.
Appreciate your time, and they were great questions, and I hope some people will be inspired by our stories.
Thank you. That wraps up another episode of the Happiness Squad podcast. We hope you found the insights actionable to enhance your journey towards happiness and fill your life with more joy, health, love, and meaning. Please consider leaving us a review and share the podcast with anyone in your professional or personal life who you feel will benefit from some of these very insights. It's a really simple way to extend support and spread positivity. Take care, and remember, happiness is a choice that's available to you moment to moment in the here and now. Take care and see you next week.